Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky!
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Name the dog in the animal.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in paints?
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, is my antsy-pantsy friend, Frank. How are you today?
You know, the 60s were a crazy time, and I'm paying for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yep.
You've been living the Dennis Hopper life is what you've been doing.
Or the Stan Lee life.
Or the Stan Lee life. Oh, yeah, that was the Stan Lee reference.
Yes.
I'm glad that you said that.
A reference.
I'm glad you said that because I forgot.
Okay.
Yes, indeed. Very good. Very, very good. So anyway, Frank, how are you today?
I am fantastic. I'm fantastic. How are you?
Good. I am also very good. Frank. I'm so good. I feel like the hills are alive with the sound of music. They're not,
Wasps.
but I feel that way. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was a reference to something that you will understand when you ask me a certain question or when I ask you a certain question.
So what are you drinking?
I'm drinking Von Trapp Bohemian Pilsner.
Ah, there it is.
See?
There
it was pretty good, right?
That was pretty good.
It was pretty good.
Von Trapp Bohemian Pilsner. I'm not sure that I've tried that one. I've tried other Von Trapp brewing.
It's good. It's kind of spicy. It's dry for a Pilsner. It's almost even kind of heavy for a Pilsner. In terms of, other really, really light Pilsners that are out there. But it's kind of spicy, kind of citrusy, kind of peppery. It's pretty good. I do recommend. It's all the things that Captain Von Trapp was. Spicy, citrusy, peppery.
A little spicy,
things.
a little sour. It's got all the things.
He was those things, though.
Things.
Yeah. So that's what I'm drinking. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking a beer that I bought. I'm not ashamed to say I bought purely because of the can, but then it turned out to be a really good beer too. Can you see this?
It's Greek beer.
It's like the Greek like coffee cup style.
Yeah,
the paper,
the blue with the white etching up. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So
yep,
and it is
white filigree.
Exactly. It is called "We Are Happy to Serve the Servants." It is a coffee milk stout from Bunker Brewing Company. And this is the last one I have left from a 6-pack. I've been holding on to it specifically so I could do it on the show. You drink it on the show.
That's fantastic.
It's pretty great. I'm pretty thrilled about it. I love it. It's a nice, rich milk stout. I'm taking a sip here. Yeah, very strong on the coffee. But it's so good. It's so good. So I just figured that I would break it out, and I encourage you, look at the show notes. I always put the names of all what, by the way, in case you don't know, the names of the beers we drink are always in the show notes. You can always find them there. So take a look at it and copy and paste the name into Google or something, or maybe I'll do you one better. I'll put a picture of the cans into the show notes. I like to do my job as a podcaster.
So fancy today.
Yeah. I'll do that. So that people can take a look at it, because it is pretty funny. It's the kind of can that would catch your eye. So we saw a movie. Each of us.
We did see a movie. We did. We saw the celebrated sequel to the 2015 hit Ant-Man. I think it was 2015. I'm going with it. 2015 hit Ant-Man, entitled Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yes.
Starring Paul Rudd, Michael Douglas, Evangeline Lilly, Michelle Pfeiffer, but not really, But here we go. All these things directed by Peyton Reed. I'm running out of things. Wait, I'm not on Academy Rewind.
I was going to say, you're doing the Academy Rewind spiel here.
I don't have to actually say all those things. Yes, great. That was all from my head, though. Go
That
me.
was pretty impressive. I could see you weren't using notes. That was pretty good. That was like a hybrid between Academy Rewind and Supergirl CV Talk the way you did that.
That's right. There you go. Here we go. Happy to be here. So, for those of you who have not seen it, stop listening because we're just gonna spoil all of it. We're going to ruin it. And here's what we're going to ruin. Frank, the science of this movie is wrong, and here's why. I've laid out these equations. No, I'm just kidding. That's not how we're going to ruin it.
Yeah.
I don't know if the science was wrong or not. It was great. This movie was super fun.
Good job,
I
Billy
loved
Grace
it.
Tyson. Yeah.
Thank you. I loved it more than the first one. What did you think?
I liked it.
Oh, interesting.
It was fun. I didn't love it more than the first one, but I really liked it. I did. Sincerely, really liked it. I think it had a lot of whimsy. It had a lot of heart. But I think I would still hold the first one in slightly higher regard.
Why is that?
I think the first one was funnier. I think the first one was I wasn't expecting much from the first one. A lot of it comes down to expectations.
Sure.
And so because I had certain expectations coming out of the first one, I was sort of hoping the second one would be, sort of on a similar, I don't know. I guess I just had expectations of how funny I thought it would be or whatever. And it wasn't quite as funny. I thought there weren't as many jokes. Let me put it that way. It's not that when they tried, it wasn't funny. It's just that I don't think there was as much humor in the film, by design, as the last time. So yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit. I would say it was a thoroughly enjoyable, I would still give it a good 3.5, 4 out of 5 stars.
A 4 out of 5. Okay, you can do halves if you want to do halves.
I decided to round up.
Okay.
That gives you some idea of how much I liked it.
Yes.
Instead of translating to a 3.5 out of 5, I decided no, I'd round it up the half point to a 4.
Okay, that makes sense. Because even a 3 out of 5, I'd give you even a 3 out of 5. I'd give you a even though you could say that's a B C D E or A B C D F, I'd still say 3 out of 5 is a respectable score for a movie. But that's interesting. I actually thought this movie was funnier than the first one. I thought the villain was more interesting, and I thought that the use of the power sets was better handled.
Now there, I definitely agree with you. The use of the power sets was better this time around. Fully agree there. Yep.
Yeah, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad in the first one. It was, but I think there was a full range of almost the soldier aspect of their powers. The shrink, you really can't hit them if you're a regular person. If they're good about being where they want to be and shrinking. So I just went back and rewatched the first one after seeing the second one, just to kind of see if there was references to the first one that I missed or something like that. I really dug the progression of Scott Lang from the first film to this film, because you have Captain America Civil War, and then you have Ant-Man and the Wasp. And where he is as a fighter in the first film compared to this one is leaps and bounds.
Oh, crazy difference.
It's crazy. And he's very athletic. I actually forgot this from the first one because he's a burglar. So, there's that bit when he's breaking into Hank Pym's house for the first time where he runs and hops and jumps the fence and then he scales the house on his own. I had forgotten all of that. And so it didn't... Go ahead.
I had too, actually, until you mentioned it. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, totally forgot he was capable of that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you forget just how athletic he is.
Yeah, how nimble he can be. And
yes.
And then on the Hope side of things, that she's already extremely capable. So when we meet her in this film, she plops in, she is full Wasp, but there's no I'm getting used to this power set or whatever. If she could have plopped herself into the suit in the first film and done just as fine. Mm-hmm. She was fully prepared, and the only reason she wasn't in the suit is because Hank didn't want to lose her because he had lost Janet, so on and so forth. So, just to go back to the beginning of the film, Marvel, I think, just likes de-aging people now. I think it's just a thing that
works.
They know they can do it, and it's cool, and I get a kick out of it literally every time.
It's crazy for me every time. It's nuts. It's nuts because, I mean, Michael Douglas, again, looked, crazy realistic. Michelle Pfeiffer was shockingly good. I don't know if that was actually her, body, or if there's a stand-in or something, and they just had.
It was her. I think it was. It's always them. I think that's the.
Well, I had heard that Lawrence Fishburne, that was his son's body. That's what I had heard. I'm not sure if that's true, but that was what was being put out there. I mean, that's why I ask.
It's very possible, but most of the time
we know that, like, Carrie
themselves.
Fisher in Rogue One, that wasn't her body; it was someone else. And
that's true. But I was thinking
Peter Cushing is no longer alive. So I
was thinking just Marvel.
Just Marvel.
That's my fault. Yeah. I was just Marvel. I didn't know that about Lawrence Fishburne. That's interesting.
Yeah, I could. I will use my one lookup to verify that because I don't want to make false claims if without backing it up. But
sure. Well, I'm thinking back to even other films where they aged or de-aged people. So they age up Haley Atwell for Winter Soldier.
Yep.
They de-aged Michael Douglas for Ant-Man. They de-aged Robert Downey Jr. for Civil War, but that's definitely him.
Is it, though? Because he was so skinny. I wonder if it was somebody else or if they just totally... I don't know.
I know that when they scronify, new word, Steve Rogers for Captain America, it's a body double.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah, it's somebody else playing that bit. Well, Chris Evans played those exact scenes so they could capture his face, and then they had the body double replicate those motions.
Got it.
So because he was already huge to play Captain America.
Same with Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man. That he did his when he's buff. That's actually him. And
that's
the scrawny
right.
one. Actually, no, the scrawny one is not a double. They actually CG'd him to look scrawny when his shirt is off.
Oh, is that what they did?
And when he's shirtless and he's buff, that's actually his body.
That's cool. I knew when he was shirtless, it was him.
Yeah.
When he was buff, when he was Spider-Man, because he had to be in the suit and stuff.
Right.
But, that's cool. I didn't know that. But anyway, makes a big kick. It's funny because when I watched this movie, I was like, wow, how long is it going to take for them to just do a whole movie with them de-aged? I go out of the movie, check online. Samuel L. Jackson will be de-aged 25 years for the entirety of Captain Marvel. And I'm like, well, there you go. One movie. Took one movie. Took the time that I thought that to the time for me checking online, a 2-hour movie, which is pretty cool. But Sam Jackson has barely aged. So
well, yeah. I mean, yeah. According to comicbook.com, an article published June 20th, it says that Lawrence Fishburne's son played the younger Bill Foster.
And they CG'd Lawrence's face onto his son's body.
It actually doesn't say. I assume that's the case, but it says the younger version of Lawrence Fishburne's Bill Foster / Goliath will be played by his son Langston Fishburne.
I thought it was just a different actor. I didn't think it was actually him.
I thought it was, but maybe it was just his son.
It was just his son playing a younger version of him.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Kind of total tangent side note, I just saw Apocalypse Now last night for the first time. 70 millimeter on the big screen. Super cool experience. Lawrence Fishburne is like 15 years old in that movie.
That's crazy.
It was so weird.
That's so
weird. He was so skinny. But it was absolutely Lawrence Fishburne, like the way he would like laugh and move his head and stuff. I'm like, oh my god!
Isn't that always so weird when you see somebody who you know so well and you see them young and it's like they're so different. Like the first time I watched Tron and I saw young Jeff Bridges, that was so weird. This article mentions all the people who played the younger. So the younger Michael Douglas played by Dax Griffin. The younger Janet Van Dyne is played by Haley Lovett. So the article it's like from a cast list. So I think these are all the body
doubles. So, sure, but the actor always plays themselves in the scene, and then they overlay the two together.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. So when we say body double, we shouldn't. It's not like they just CG'd the face onto somebody,
Correct.
Which is why I think let's say the Marvel ones work, but say Princess Leia in Rogue One,
it looks
a little different because it's not exactly that person. So they're not really capturing the face exactly. So that's crazy. I think Michael Douglas, is still my favorite for like the de-aging process.
I agree. It's
that
the most
first
seamless.
scene that first scene in Ant-Man is crazy. It's just Michael Douglas. Like it's like American President or like Dangerous Liaison. No, not Dangerous Liaisons.
Well, anything from like the late 80s, early 90s. Like it looks like that era Michael Douglas.
Yep.
To a T, flawless.
Anyway, going back to Ant-Man. Are you familiar with Bill Foster at all? Speaking, we're talking about Lawrence Fishburne, that character.
I'm really not.
Okay, so fun fact. So Lawrence Fishburne plays a man named Bill Foster, who in the comics is the superhero Goliath, who can like, grow and blah, blah, blah. You kind of get that from the context of the film.
Yes.
Goliath is in the comic Civil War.
Oh.
And he is murdered by Thor, the robot. Remember the robot Thor comes down?
Yes,
Mr. Fantastic.
I do.
And yeah. They create robot Thor, and he murders Bill Foster. He murders Goliath. That's probably his biggest claim to fame.
So I read Civil War, the comic, shortly before Civil War, the movie came out as a refresher. I had read some of it while it was coming out, 10, 12 years ago, whatever it was. But yeah, I read some of it. I reread it when it was before the movie, and I do remember that. Okay, so that's Bill Foster. Got it.
Yeah. So I liked that bit of a twist where he's you watch that scene. I don't know about you. I watched that scene. I was like, oh, so he's the bad guy. Okay, got it. He's the mastermind.
When I saw the trailers, I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah, he's only in this. We only show me one scene with Lawrence Fishburne. There's got to be more to this movie.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And so, but what I really enjoyed about that is that he's really not the bad guy, and he has a very clear arc of I'm trying to do this to save her life, but she's taking it too far, and I've tried to help her as much as possible, and it's just not working because you have this poor kid, Ghost, whose name is Ava, and she is basically raised by S.H.I.E.L.D. to be an assassin.
Right.
And so she doesn't really have a problem with killing people to get what she wants because that's what her ultimate upbringing was. And so her motivations, I liked her as a villain. I thought her motivations were very clear, and I liked the separation between her and Bill Foster. And then there's a bit of a redemption arc within her, just a tiny bit, enough to make you really feel for her in a way that I haven't really felt for many villains outside of Loki, Thanos to an extent. But most villains, you're kind of like, you're doing it because you want to rule, or you want money, or you want this. You're just like being evil for the sake of being evil, even if you're fun to watch or whatever. But she had like real personal motives, and I enjoyed that.
That's interesting, because I honestly didn't care for her very much as a villain, or found her sort of. I mean, when I really stop and think about it, when I really, really like dig into like, wow, what it must feel like to be that person.
Mm-hmm.
When I think about it, then I think about everything you just said. But as I was watching the film, I didn't have those feelings as much. I don't know, I have heard other people express this too, where it just. Not that she's a bad villain, but I don't know. I didn't. She was somewhat sympathetic, but I found myself not really being somewhat what's the word? Numb to sort of like, yeah, okay, she's bad for reasons, and she wants to hurt people. Maybe it's a little bit of like that superhero fatigue we're talking about settling in me.
Maybe, but I don't. But she's not bad for reasons to hurt people. That's the thing.
No, you're right. You're right.
That, you know what I mean? Like that's not her motivation at all. She doesn't want to just hurt people or rule the world. She's just trying to get better so she doesn't die.
She just wants the pain to go away. She just wants the pain to
go
go
away.
She's
she wants to live. It's not even the pain. Like, she's going to die if she doesn't do this. And so it's just survival, but you couple that with somebody whose whole life they've just been taught to kill and to fight. And, listener Damon had brought up that she had spent some time with Bill Foster between the collapse of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
and this movie, but you're talking a year, you're talking 3 years maybe, and like that's not enough time when he's kind of on her side at this point to like get it done, help save her life, blah blah blah. That's not enough time to be like, oh well, you shouldn't kill people to get what you want,
compared with 25, 30 years of her life prior to that.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So I'm definitely not on her side, but I enjoyed that every level of this movie was personal, where there's no one really there to, take over the company or rule the world, or
right.
Not really. So because you have Hank's and Hope's motivation is just to get Janet back. It's just to get the mother. It's just to get her mother back. And his wife, and then Scott's motivation is just to help them, but also just to be free, because he's under house arrest, which I thought those bits were hilarious.
Oh my god, that was
the house
so
arrest stuff
funny.
The house stuff arrest was amazing, great stuff. And so that's his motivation is just to help, and it's not even to like prove himself or anything like that. It is purely to right some wrongs.
That's it. I was going to say it's more than just the help. It's he wants to make good for his mistake.
Away.
Yeah, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, so he ran away to help Captain America and didn't tell anybody and stole the suit, which makes Hank and Hope have to go on the run. That scene when he's like, "Oh yeah, no, this is like when I helped Cap," and she's like, "Cap? Yeah, Captain America. It's what we call him." Yeah. That was hilarious. He's just, oh, Captain America, you're great.
Yeah.
I'm such a fan. Oh, I know you too. You're great.
That was pretty great.
He is great. So and then you have Bill Foster and Ghost, who it's personal for them just to get her better.
Yep.
But it's also personal for Bill because he has a rivalry with Hank.
Kind of a grudge.
And then even on top of that, you have the FBI kind of making it, the guy in charge. What's the guy's name in charge of the FBI? Wu, right? It's him going like, I need a win. I need this to, it's personal for him too. He just needs a victory. Mm-hmm. So it's almost a movie in which nobody's really at fault except for Goggins there. What's his name?
Walton Goggins. What was his name?
Walter Goggins. Oh yeah, Walter Goggins. Yeah.
Walton. It's actually
Walton. Is it? Oh, it's Walton.
Yeah, not Walter. I thought it was Walter, but it's Walton.
Ah, that's like Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, it is.
So close.
Sonny Birch is his.
Sonny Birch. They're really the only ones that you could even technically say like they're the evil ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
in their own way.
Right.
Because even Scott's like little troop, his friends, like they're just trying to make their job work so they're not bankrupt. Luis and everybody. So I just like that it's almost pardon the pun, it's a small film in that sense.
Yeah.
There's no corporate espionage. There's no, we got to save the world. This thing's going to blow up and destroy the city. Literally none of that, except when it comes to Sonny Birch.
Yep.
But you don't even know really what his total motivation is, apart from he's working for, quote, some very bad people.
So I didn't care for his character very much. He was not very well fleshed out. He was not super interesting. He struck me a little bit just sort of like Dukes of Hazzard villain or something. Like he was not super. It was just sort of like, I'm here for crime reasons, and in his here parts we're in charge. Just okay, whatever. He wasn't interesting, and that's a shame because he's actually a really gifted actor.
He is. He's very good.
So it was too bad that he wasn't utilized more. I thought that was actually one of the things that was disappointing. Was he just wasn't a very interesting or fleshed out character. He was really, just sort of a goon.
Well, I have two thoughts on this. So yes, he was definitely a goon. I'll give you that. his motivation kind of comes from being lied to by Hope, right? You know,
Yes.
they're getting parts from him on the black market, but now he wants the tech to sell it because he works for some very bad people, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of his motivation. I found him interesting because I like Walton Goggins, so like maybe that was, you know, I was on board with his performance, if you want to put it that way, but I also felt a little gypped that now this is the character that Walton Goggins is in the MCU. Like,
yeah,
he probably could have played a more important character because he's that good of an actor, but instead we got Sonny Birch instead.
So I hope he like comes back in another film. Like maybe there's a way that they backdoor him into another film. I don't know, but
well,
it wasn't
when. Go ahead.
I mean, because Sonny Birch is a like character in the comics, right? So like it's possible they bring him back in another film, I guess, but I don't know.
Well, to me, the empty threat of I work for some bad people means that there's another layer of person that we haven't seen yet. Sure. That's arguably a bigger villain. And I was giving this some thought. I've seen some articles online. They're like, do you think Sonny Birch works for Norman Osborn or something like that? Which is possible. Sure. Which is possible. But if he's in an Ant-Man film, I don't think we're moving in Norman Osborn direction for Ant-Man. That doesn't make sense to me.
Not
mean,
really.
Ghost is even an Iron Man villain. It's not even an Ant-Man villain. So because Ant-Man doesn't really have any villains.
Right.
Right, we kind of used the one Ant-Man villain in the last movie.
Yeah.
So unless you count Ultron in the comics because he's made by Hank Pym, but that's totally out for the movie. So so you got to start taking from other characters. Now, so I was thinking that it might be the Roxxon Corporation that we might get. So if he works for some very bad people, you're talking tech market and all this stuff. Roxxon, Roxxon, is like the, I don't know, what would you call them, like the Gulf of,
or Exxon,
yeah. Oh yeah, that's a good comparison. Yeah.
Sorry.
I see. Yeah, well, I was thinking oil spills and
yeah well, like BP
like
did the big oil
yeah
spill.
BP, right? Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
So I'm thinking we go in, I think we might see something going in that direction, because right now, Roxxon's been a huge thorn in the side of Thor, Jane Foster Thor in the comics. So they've been like a huge entity in the books that way, and they were big in the Ultimate Universe for a long time. And so maybe we'll get some more corporate heisty stuff when it comes around for the third film.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool, actually. I could see that being a fun, like, heist film.
Yeah, well, the first one was a heist film.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Back to basics, baby.
Yeah, back to basics, exactly. So overall, I really enjoyed this film. I don't think the score for the first one or the second one gets enough props, but I really dig the funky, jazzy 60s horns.
I like the theme a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah.
It's a good theme.
Could you believe they got Michael Douglas to actually put on an Ant-Man type suit?
That was so cool that he actually did that.
I know. I was like, I can't believe they actually convinced him to put this on.
I know.
That's crazy to me. It's crazy. Although he did an interview and he's like, I'm totally ready to do a Hank Pym prequel.
That would be so cool.
Yeah, de-age me, baby.
Yeah.
But I want so bad. I was thinking about this when I walked out of this movie. So Hank Pym's probably in his, 60s, 70s, you'd say?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So that means he'd be in his 20s, if not 30s, right? For in the 60s,
yep.
Right? All right. So this is what I want. I want Disney to buy Fox so we can get the Fantastic Four.
Mm-hmm.
I want a Fantastic Four movie set in the 60s dealing with S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hank Pym at the front of some of that.
Yes.
Because then you're including the de-aged, even a scene would be awesome, like a de-aged Michael Douglas as Ant-Man in his prime, standing right next to Reed Richards and The Thing and the Human Torch and Invisible Woman, and it would be amazing. Because then you could also bring in Peggy Carter and all that would be That would be
Howard
clutch.
Stark.
Howard Stark, exactly. That would be. They're like really missing some prime real estate in the 1960s with the Fantastic Four.
That would be really, really, really cool. I would be so all over that.
Because you're also talking the 60s, you're also talking the Cold War and spies. And if you take that approach to Latveria and Doctor Doom, you do like 60s spies, Cold War with Doctor Doom, with Ant-Man and Peggy Carter.
You do a Bond film. You do a Bond film in the MCU.
You do a Bond film with the original Ant-Man.
Oh.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
I know. See, we're like...
This is
super missing out.
Yes, they really are. They really are. This is what makes the MCU so good, is that they can do all these different genre films with these characters from the comics, right? Mm-hmm. That's what makes this whole project, this whole experiment so special.
Yep, I completely agree.
Oh, that would be so awesome. Well,
I know.
Before we wrap things up on Ant-Man and the Wasp, a few things. I know I started off on sort of a negative spot saying like it was fine. It wasn't my favorite, but some things that I absolutely loved was the gag with the truth serum was hysterical.
Oh, that was hilarious. It is truth serum.
Yes, the callback at the end was so great. Anytime Michael Peña's on screen, honestly, in this movie or the previous one, but the whole thing where he's narrating and all the actors are like mouthing his narration.
It's a nice callback to the first one. I think it was actually done better this one. It had a quicker pace than the other ones I had noticed.
Yes.
Yeah, the first two in the first film are a little bit slower, and this one is like, boom, we're in it. Like, you're used to this already. Yeah.
Exactly, because it's like, this bit. We're doing this bit again. We're doing the drunk history bit. It's like that. But it's also, I don't quite remember if they did it as much in the first one, but the actors I felt like were leaning into it more. And like, if he said something kind of sassy, Evangeline Lilly would like have a sassy like expression and like be flippant and be like, throw stuff around or whatever. They were much, I feel, based on my memory of the first one, leaning into that much more and being much sillier because he was being silly. And it made the whole bit funnier.
I agree, because the first one, the actors mostly portray it normally, like they're using his words, but they're pretty normal in their body language.
Yes.
But it was hilarious. I loved every second of it.
So
I think they were even funnier in this film than they were in the first film. That trio.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Even though I still think the first movie was funnier on the whole, I would agree that trio was funnier this time around because we know them and they were able to be sort of their silliest best. I did notice that Paul Rudd got a writing credit on this time around.
Oh, I didn't notice that. That's great.
Yeah.
That's very good. I loved the cardboard maze at the beginning.
Yes, that was so cute that he did for his daughter. Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was great.
That was
and then
really cool.
The whole thing where he's like a 3/4 size in the school and he's wearing the giant sweatshirt.
Oh, that was hilarious.
Oh my God, that was so funny.
I love. Would you like some string cheese in a juice box? Do you have those?
Really have those?
Do you have those? Yeah, that was
great.
Both those were great. I think the fighting, like overall with Wasp and Ant-Man and Ghost, I thought the Ghost effects were very cool because there was like a lingering effect, almost like a 3D cover to a book where you can kind of see the trace of something.
That's a good way of putting it. That lenticular 3D look.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah. That was tasty. I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm,
I enjoyed the whole movie. Not a lot of Michelle Pfeiffer at all.
Yeah. No, but that's what to be expected, right? Like, because she was being rescued at the end. So
yeah. Well, you didn't know that she was going to be rescued at the end. You know what I mean? Like it got to the point
I
where
knew she was going to be rescued at the end.
Yeah. Apparently, there were quite a few flashback scenes that they cut out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Maybe it was just for time or for pacing or whatever. But I guess it just didn't. So there's probably more of her in the film.
I could see that. I could see there being like maybe they were going to do it 2 or 3 times and they decided once was enough.
Once was plenty. I enjoyed revisiting the original Ant-Man and Wasp scene on the missile.
Yeah,
because it was the same. It was pretty much the same footage from the first film. I enjoyed looking at that. And then, of course, we have to talk about the mid credits.
I was going to say we have to get to that before we go. Yeah.
It delivered exactly what I wanted, actually, from the mid credit scene.
It's what I thought would happen.
Me too. I saw them all on the roof, and I was like, they're all gone, and Scott
Yep.
will be fine.
Yep.
I didn't know how exactly, but I'm curious. So he goes back into the quantum realm to get some energy, whatever, to help Ghost. So they're actively helping her get better.
Yep.
Which I like.
Mm-hmm. That's what heroes do.
That's what heroes do, right? And then because that's what heroes do. That was a good Thor Ragnarok reference that you made without even knowing it.
Sun's getting real low.
Sun's getting real low. Why do you keep saying that? Yeah, piss off, Ghost.
Ghost, because this movie has Ghost. It comes around.
So I wasn't expecting him to get stuck in the quantum realm, but I wonder if capturing a bit of that energy will just help him get out.
So I think he captured that energy, and then Michelle Pfeiffer or Janet before he went into the quantum realm was like, "Oh, and watch out for those time vortexes; those will really get you." So I feel like that was a big like. There's going to be something with a time vortex where maybe he goes back in time and stops Thanos from snapping or something like that.
Oh well, we did talk about them going back in time, but if they can all shrink down to go back in time through a time vortex and then do like a hop through the MCU. Like in a time vort, that makes a lot of sense.
If they all, if
I mean, like not just Ant-Man, not just Scott, but if the existing Avengers.
Oh, I see.
So
all the characters who survived the snap, or all the major like Avengers who survived the snap,
right? Because he doesn't know about the snap,
right?
He knows nothing, so there's no reason for him to like go back and end up there or anything like that. So if he can get out. Contact the Avengers because he has that contact info, right? Or at least enough. And then he knows enough about the time vortexes in there that they can all shrink down, go back in time, and then reset the universe.
But how does he get out without somebody there to get him out?
I think, he got out of the quantum realm in the first film without anybody there to get him out.
I guess that's true. But is there something different this time? Because he was so desperate to get to have an answer.
Well, Cassie, it's in a mid-credit scene. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't know what happened to anybody. But he had to play with his regulator in the first one. He had to he had to do some finicky magic on it because he has a master's in engineering, which I had also forgotten about. So,
as most burglars do.
Exactly. So, that's not how he started. He's really a Robin Hood, a Robin Ant. So... and Anthood. Anyway, I'm done with those. So I think there's a lot of but good call on the time vortex. I think that's definitely going to come into play.
Somehow it will. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been Beer with Geeks. You can find us on beerwithgeeks.com and Facebook and Gmail and Twitter. You can rate and review us on iTunes and find us all the places podcasts can be found, such as Spotify, Google Play, and the iTunes Store, otherwise known as Apple Podcasts. You can, of course, also go to thoughtbubbleaudio.com to check out all other Thought Bubble audio shows, and you can find Frank in person at 123 Fake Street, Illinois.
60652. Stark Expo Live, September 1st. It's only a scant 7 weeks away or something. September 1st in Atlanta, Georgia. Stark Expo Live eventbrite.com. And Untitled Tech Podcast, if you like hearing two non-developer people who just like technology talking about technology.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds real good. All right, well then, until next time. Cheers.